Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of The Top Cut. This is a very special post-Nationals edition, and we have all three members of The Top Cut along with myself, Josue Crim Rojano. That is Michael Pramawat, Drew Holden, and Kyle Pooka Sukovic. Actually, this week we also have a very special guest. You guys may or may not have heard of him, and his name is John Roberts II, and he can lay claim to a very cool little title, and that's champion of the biggest tournament of all time for Pokemon. Congratulations, John, and thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thanks for having me on the
show. No problem, my friend. Now, you were a relative unknown coming into this last weekend, and aside from myself, who you and I had a few conversations, you kind of went under the radar for a little while, and the next thing you knew, you popped up with your Cling Clang deck and kind of stormed the show, and you took over the show and you took over Nationals. How does it feel to be just jumped into the limelight, so to speak? Because obviously, like I mentioned, you were a relative unknown, and now here you are, the winner of the biggest Pokemon tournament of all time.
Well, it obviously feels great, but it also took a lot of work. I didn't just come up with the deck, and it was automatically great. So, overall, it just feels like I've done something that not many players have done over the course of Pokemon, and that's being able to just jump in the game, make their own deck, and actually win it actually with it.
Yeah. Now, John, obviously, it goes without saying that you humbled me personally, and we'll be getting a little bit further into that as time goes on. But I'm sure that there was other critics as well. I hope that there was other critics as well, at least. And did that take into it? Did that come into play when it came time for you to, first of all, make your deck choice, and second of all, actually go through this Nationals run of yours?
What was that?
Sorry. Basically that it's all right, man. Basically that also, obviously, I was a critic of the deck, and that's very well publicized, and you and I have talked about this quite a bit. But I'm hoping, anyways, that there was other critics as well, so I don't look like the only fool in Pokemon. And I just wanted to see if that actually came into account for you, and if you maybe use that as I don't know, motivation or something coming into Nationals and coming out of Nationals, obviously.
It's actually one of the best parts of the actually the best parts of me doing as well as I did is the fact that everyone was just on me, just telling me that, oh, you shouldn't play that, the deck is bad. That just drove me to prove everyone wrong. And I worked on it more than any other deck I've ever had in any game. So I just thank everybody who criticized me for playing sometimes.
Yeah. Now, I mean...
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
All right, well, first of all, John, just want to say congratulations. I think you are a great role model for the game. So I'm really happy you won, first of all. But I just wanted to ask, I'm sure you saw at some point that the Hammer Time deck came out, and it got really public, and a lot of people were talking about it. Did that scare you at all going into Nationals? Did you think that a lot of people are going to be playing that? Was there ever a point where you thought, I'm not going to be able to play my deck anymore?
I actually did think that. That's one reason why I had so many doubts. It's just that I really wanted to play it. That's the whole point of me playing it. I really wanted to play it, whether I was going to win or not. It's just the deck that I have been working on for a long, long time. It's been in the works for, before Nationals, it was in the works for about 3 months. And I worked on it almost every other day. And then the last few weeks, I worked on it every single day. So it actually took a lot of work.
Yeah.
I'm glad it paid off.
It's very clear that you were very dedicated to your deck. And when we were doing an interview with you at actual Nationals right after you won, you made it very clear that you actually spent countless hours constantly, day after day, working on that deck. Did you have a fallback plan, by the way, in case the deck just ended up, say you go into the open player and all of a sudden you see nothing but crushing hammers and lost removers and Darkrise all over the place. Would you have been comfortable playing another deck, or were you dead set? This is gonna be my deck. I'm going in here and I'm gonna prove Crim wrong.
I was actually set on the playing card.
All right, good.
That's how many hammer times there were. I was gonna stick with it and focus that.
It was very obvious that you knew your matchups. Just speaking to you about matchups and speaking to you about how the deck was supposed to work. Given whatever opponent you would be playing, and that obviously ended up helping you tremendously. Do you attribute that to your success, or do you think that there might have been something else that another factor that was even bigger that counted towards your success?
Well, there are several factors. They were all about equal. One was the criticism. One was the fact that I really want to play this deck, and the other was the fact that I didn't know my matchup. I really didn't know everything I need to do in every matchup possible. Even the ones that were pretty much all losses, like Quadente and Hammer Time. The fact she played Quadente and was actually able to beat it. But Hammer Time, my strategy for that was to, attach one energy, see if they played any like hammers or lost removers, and then if they did, and don't catch anyone for the rest of the game, let them take a few prizes, and then let my ends do the work, so that way I can actually drop energies without them.
Yeah. I also see that is it your girlfriend or your wife, by the way?
Oh, that's my cousin.
Your cousin. Oh.
Yeah.
Hi.
Way to go, Crim.
I'm over
boy.
now.
Putting your foot in your mouth one more time.
Well, either way, she's really good, and she's a great cousin. I'm a terrible guy at this, man. Why am I even doing this? I'm the worst.
Yeah, they are at my place, so I came over here.
Oh. Okay, that's
I'm actually getting it back on tomorrow. So.
Yeah. Yeah, is there anything else that you want to mention before we actually move on with the show? Is there anything special that happened to you this weekend, aside from obviously winning the tournament, that you'd really like to get out of your chest?
I just want to thank everyone who supported me. Everyone. Doesn't matter if I know you did or not. If you were supporting me, hoping me to win, then I really appreciate that. I think that really helped me out a lot. And also, for everyone who had me sign their claims and tirers. Yeah, thank you for that. That makes me really feel, appreciated. So.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for representing the game so well. And I mean, like I said, eating humble pie all night long, and I've been eating it for over a week now. And I'm just, to be perfectly honest with you, I am glad that you did so well. And towards the end, I was even cheering you on. I was just like, not even towards the end, towards the entire tournament. You were just doing so great, and it was so awesome to see you prove me wrong. And I know it's easy to say this once I actually did get proven wrong. But the fact is that you actually absolutely did great, and I could just tell from the beginning, like when you were kind of like jabbing at me, saying, "Hey, look, I'm 2-0. Hey, look, I'm 4-0." Even from then, I could tell that you deserve the success that you were getting, and I was happy for you, and I still am. And you know what? I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong a million times, and the ultimate thing is, you deserve the win, and you deserved it quite a bit, given how much preparation you actually did, and I've never seen somebody so confident in their deck choice, and it worked out for you, and that's what really counts. And what's also interesting is that the two largest tournaments in Pokemon history have been won by relative unknowns. That's really cool to me, and I don't know. I think that's something worth looking into, because it's no longer about the big names dominating the scene or anything like that. It's saying, you know what? You put enough effort into this game. You put enough preparation into this game. You can do really well. And both you and Justin Sanchez, who won last year, have proven that quite a bit. And that was really cool to watch. And you know what? I hope it keeps up, because I like the ability for anybody to be able to win given enough preparation and so forth. So I thought that was really cool. But this is the Top Cut, guys, and this is not the only thing that we're going to be talking about right now. We do have John here, who is going to be more than glad to answer, whatever questions you guys may have at the end of the show. So please go ahead and ask them on our Facebook page. But we are also going to talk to you guys a little bit about what happened with us over the weekend. I know you guys don't want to hear about our boring stories of how we went XX drop, XX drop, XS drop, and X3 whiff. But we're going to give you guys a little recap of this, and also how the Top Cut as a group did, with coverage and whatnot. So I guess I'll start with my amazing 3-3 drop performance. I started off 1-2 playing against Kling Klang twice and losing to it twice. Actually, one was McGaney, which counts as Kling Klang. So I was eating humble pie right from the beginning, right from the very get-go. I could tell that this was going to be a very humbling weekend, and it absolutely proved to be that. So, you know what? No excuses. I didn't do enough testing. It was all my fault, and I should have noticed that. I just had a really poor matchup against this deck, which ended up being a lot more popular than I thought it was going to be. And my 3 losses were to Kling Klang variants, 2 of them with Vileplume, 1 without. And I won 3 matches, but once I took my 3rd loss, I decided to drop and do commentary. And we'll get into that a little bit later, because obviously that didn't work out the way we wanted it. But I don't have a very interesting story to tell. My tournament itself was very dull. I didn't really have very exciting matches. I never really had too close of a match. But either way, I had great opponents, and it was really fun for me. And once I dropped out of the tournament, it was really cool to be able to sign so many, play mats, autographs, and everything. It was humbling as all can be, and the pictures that I took were, really cool memories, and I hope to be able to see them soon. But as far as my my story is concerned, that's going to be it for now, and we'll move on with Kyle. Actually, Kyle, can you please explain your weekend tournament-wise?
Yeah, I mean, everybody who knows me knows I've done pretty well at Nationals over the past few years. So expectations were unreasonably high, at least from other people for me. Everyone's like, "Oh, you're ready to top 4 again?" And I kept trying to tell people, no, this is actually like the hardest tournament in the world, and it's not that easy to keep winning. So every year I don't really expect to do well, and this was finally the year where I just hit my stretch of bad luck. Every game was just, I'd end my opponent down to 1 or 2 cards, and then they'd draw a Juniper and draw whatever they needed to win the game, or I would sit there draw passing the whole game. So I actually had like the worst tournament I've had all year, and I had 2 buys, so I actually went like 1-4 and dropped. So it was just a stretch of horrible games for me, and then to top it all off, I lost to an Embor deck, which your day is over when you lose to Embor.
Yeah, it's my boy Embor.
I'm sitting there shaking my head as I'd like draw a pass versus an Embor Ninetales deck. He sits there blue flaring me. I'm like, I feel like I'm back at Battle Roads. It's just embarrassing, and that was my 4th loss. So that was just kind of the summary of my tournament from a playing standpoint. We'll get into the other stuff later, but yeah, not the greatest weekend for me.
Gotta wait for those space monsters, Deoxys Rayquaza Legends coming down, taking 2 prizes.
He didn't even play that. It was just M4, Ninetales, Reshiram.
Was that the most interesting deck you played against that weekend?
I also lost to a Kling Klang deck, but it was pretty uneventful. I fell down by 3 prizes before I even got to attack.
That happened to me too against that deck.
Yeah, I actually almost came back. I got a Mewtwo with 10 energy on it, and I ended him to 1, but he drew a Mewtwo to get me.
Yeah. Do you feel like you maybe should have played a different deck, or were you happy with your deck choice?
I really couldn't find a deck I liked when it came down to it. There were so many different decks that I had to worry about. I think actually playtesting with the people that I did kind of screwed me up for the tournament, because there was a lot of... not like that, but like the types of decks I was playing against wasn't really indicative of what I was going to face at Nationals. For example, the big deck that popped up in like our little group was the Darkrai, Weavile, Sableye with a bunch of Crushing Hammers and Super Scoop Ups, which tried to like deny your hand and deny all of your energy. And so I probably played against that a little too much, and I thought it would be bigger than it was, but at the end of the day, nobody really played it, and I never even faced it once. So I kind of tailored my deck to try to beat more Darkrai stuff, but at the actual tournament, I faced all sorts of stuff. So I probably made not the greatest choice. I ended up playing Zekrom Electric with Terrakion, but I don't think it was a bad choice. I mean, other people played the exact same list as me and still made it, like Ben Potter and Andrew Mondek. They both made it to a top 128 at least. So I don't think it was a terrible choice, but obviously not the best choice if I ended up going 1-4. If I had to go back, I'd probably choose something else, but there's also luck involved sometimes, so I'm not going to dwell on it too much.
All right. Yeah, bad tournaments happen to all of us. Drew, what about yourself? How did you do at Nationals?
Well, I probably had the worst tournament besides Kyle, who had 2 buys.
You have to mention that. You're like, hey guys, just
Guys,
so you
all
know,
gotta
I may have
justify
won
this.
3-4.
Yeah. Anyways, I played Zekrom Terrakion too. I wanted to play some kind of Darkrai initially, but it's I don't know, it wasn't working out versus what we were testing in our group. So I went with Zekrom. I knew that version was weak to like a fast Mewtwo, and sure enough, round 1 I'm facing down a DC Mewtwo turn 1, and I just can't come back from that, and I lose that game. And then game 2, I start with the Smeargle and get FTK'd by a Tornadus EX. He had the portrait twice into Ponce in order to hit a switch, and I think he needed a plus power, so we hit both those off his.
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
He's gone.
Adios, buddy. All right.
I guess while he comes back, I'll go into mine.
He's talking. No.
No.
My back? Oh,
There you go. There you go.
There you go.
I can't see anything, so.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. Keep talking.
Alright,
We lost you when you were talking about your
Game
Tornadus
2.
EX loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
where did I leave off?
Game 2.
I think it's gonna die, so.
You got first turn by a Tornadus EX.
Alright, so then I played Chris Bianchi at 0-2, which is kind of weird because we're old friends. He's been on the show a couple times, and I barely edge him out, and then I run hot the next game, and then I draw dead the 5th round, and I made a comeback. We both were slow setting up, but we basically had an end war, and I lost the end war. So that seemed to be the story of Nationals, just whoever got that guy at the end won a lot of games, so can't really argue too bad about it.
So you went 2-3 after day 1.
Yeah, unfortunately. So I was planning on doing commentary, so I dropped, and we all know how that went.
Well. To be fair, you went 2-4. Let's not get carried away.
I did go 2-4. They cost me an extra round.
The record books will show that you went 2-4 at Nationals. Kyle went 3-4. I went 3-3. I did second best in the top cut. This is terrible. This was the worst showing we've ever. Before we move on to Pram, Drew, is there anything that you want to mention about your deck choice or anything like that? All right, guess not. Pram.
Alright, so I went 6-3. I missed top cut. Let's see. I knew my day was going to start off bad when I faced basically an auto loss, which is the Excelgor deck. I'm playing Zekrom Electric, and it's actually really hard to beat that deck. And yeah, you're sitting at the players' meeting, and you go, okay, I made the gamble. I just gambled to not play against paralysis decks, and here comes a playmat with Vanillux on it, and I'm just like, oh no. So alright, so I lose round 1, and then I won my second round against a Darkrai deck. I was like going quad tails on Dual Ball during the game. Didn't hit a supporter until like turn 6, but I etched it out barely, because Terrakion is pretty good versus Darkrai. And then I go on to go 2-1, and I forget what my third round is. Whatever. And then I eventually just go. I eventually go 3-2 day one. I lost again because I prized 2 eels, a Terrakion, and a Shaman versus Darkrai. And I don't know, we lost Drew completely.
All right, we'll get him back eventually. Keep going.
And so I ended up 3-2 on day one. Day 2 comes around, I have to go 4-0 to make cut because I didn't have any buys this year. So I go 2-0, and then I'm up against another Darkrai deck, and this time I prized an Eel and Shaman, and I knock out a Darkrai. I have to hit either Eel or Shaman off the prize, and I just basically lock up the game completely, and that whiffs. So then I end him down to 1, and he has to not hit Catcher, and I'm at 2 prizes, or 3 prizes, or no, 2 prizes. I'm at 2 prizes, so I knock something out, and then Catcher comes up on his turn, and I lose the game. So I'm basically out. I play the last round out just to see what happens. I get a mirror match. I finally draw my first normal hand of the tournament, because I've been my entire tournament I've been drawing like terrible, and I've been flipping like quad tails all day. But despite all that, 6-3, not too bad. Can't really complain with what I was going through. So, yeah.
So I guess the same question goes to you. Were you happy with your deck choice? Would you, maybe play Kling Klang?
Hindsight's 20/20, right? So of course I would have played something along the lines of Kling Klang. I really liked the Vileplume decks because I'm like super paranoid about Lost Remover. But watching John's games in our top 8 round, I was just like, oh wow, his deck is really synergistic with its attacks, and that was like one of the huge things I liked about at least his build of Kling Klang. He never wanted to go into the Mewtwo war, and that's how I beat like a Kling Klang earlier. I was just like, well, I'll knock out this EX, and then oh, he played down Mewtwo. I'm assuming he plays more than one Mewtwo, so I'll just go into a Mewtwo war. Hey, 2 Mewtwo's later, I won. And so that's a lesson to be learned, I guess.
Yeah. John, real quick, I do want to ask you a question that way you don't get bored. Do you feel like Lost Remover is going to now make a pretty big impact at Worlds, knowing that Kling Klang is actually not only a deck, but it might actually be the deck to beat? And I'm not saying this because you're here. I'm saying this because it's the truth. I've been speaking with a lot of my Pokemon playing friends whose opinions I definitely respect, and we all agree that Kling Klang is. It was the sleeper of the tournament, and it might have been the best deck in the format at the time. So do you feel like Lost Remover might be played now because of this, at least a little bit more heavily than it was before?
I think it will. So I'm going to have to take some measures to try to counter that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the key to being successful at this game is to be able to adapt to the metagame. And obviously, if say a third of the field decides to play Lost Remover, you don't want to have a third of the field be your auto loss. So you adapt to it and you do what you have to, whether that means playing Vileplume or whether that means playing a little bit more basic energies or something. I don't know, but you absolutely have to adapt, and I'm glad you agree with that, because I do agree with you. I think Lost Remover is going to become a little bit more popular, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with this format. Now, Drew, are you still here?
Who knows?
All right, you are. Drew, I want to ask you a question since you didn't get to answer it before you left. Were you happy with your deck choice? And if not, then would you have changed to another deck?
I was fine with it. I wasn't sure what I was going to play. I didn't really feel comfortable with my other choice, which was Darkrai, so I felt I could have picked a probably more consistent deck. The metagame wasn't what I expected at all. Really, a more consistent deck probably would have worked out better. I feel like the Zekrom Terrakion deck was pretty clunky overall. I don't think I set up as I thought I was going to at all throughout the day. I think I set up once and just ran someone over. Poor Pooka Dad, but that was my only game I felt like I actually set up. So 1 out of 5 ain't bad.
What did you expect the metagame to be?
Probably more Darkrai. Darkrai was like really hyped up after Battle Road, so it seemed like there was kind of a shift. There was all these like Vileplume and status decks. Thanks, Kyle. That seemed to come out of the woodwork a little bit, and I did not expect that at all.
What about you, Pram? Do you feel like the metagame was kind of what, or do you feel like you agree with what Drew's analysis of the metagame was going to be coming into Nationals?
Yeah, I know my my thoughts on the metagame were pretty much off in terms of what was actually played. I tried. I was basically under the assumption a lot of people are going to play Darkrai, a lot of people are going to play CMT, maybe a Kling Klang here or there, and not a lot of people would pull the trigger and play Vanillux, and maybe even less on Excelgor. While that may be true, I underestimated how good Excelgor was, and a lot of the top tables, at least in the blue pod, were Excelgor.
Okay.
So maybe it was just, maybe I may have been right, but what I thought would dominate was off. So. Yeah.
And real quick, what about you, Kyle?
I mean, I wasn't sure what to expect going into a tournament with 1,000 people. I didn't think you could actually predict what you were going to run into, because how can you ever predict what 1,000 people are going to play? You don't know if a new rogue deck's going to pop up. You don't know if people are just going to play their favorite decks or whatever the case is. I figured the number one deck I would have to worry about is Darkrai. It was just the hot topic at the time. That was just what people were going to play regardless. So I wanted to make sure I had something covered for Darkrai. Other than that, I just wanted like a well-rounded deck that could handle any sort of situation. And I thought that Zekrom Electric Terrakion was the deck that could just kind of handle everything. It wasn't really good at beating anything, but it gave you a shot to win every matchup. So I made sure to run 2 Mewtwo's because I knew Vileplume decks would be popular. I knew they would be there, and you need Mewtwo in that deck to beat Vileplume. So I don't know. I guess I didn't expect so many paralysis decks to show up either, but it didn't surprise me too much. Those decks are extremely good, but I thought people would realize that they're not good in best 2 out of 3, but apparently people didn't care about that, and that's kind of what we saw. We saw a lot of the Excelgor and some Vanillux decks do really, really well in the Swiss rounds. I know Harrison Levin, he went 9-0, and then they hit the top cut rounds, and all of a sudden they just all started losing one by one. And I don't think there was one that made it to the top 8. So you just can't win that many best 2 out of 3 matches in 60 minutes with a Vileplume deck. It just doesn't work like that. You run out of time. That's all there is to it. So you were seeing like world-class players, like we said Jason Harry. He was playing an Excelgor deck. He lost. I know John here. He beat John Kettler, who is always one of the best players. He fell, and just it surprised me how many top players actually went into the tournament using a Vileplume deck, knowing that it would be 60 minutes best 2 out of 3. Like I said, it's really good in Swiss, and then they just all kind of fell off the map when they hit the top cut rounds. So that's what surprised me, but overall, you can't be surprised by 1,000 players. You can never predict what's going to happen.
Okay, I agree.
Hey John, can you refresh your camera real quick? Basically, just hit that camera button twice.
And Kyle, you too, please.
Alright.
John, you obviously won, so it's going to be difficult for you to say, oh no, I didn't assess the metagame correctly. But do you feel like you assessed the metagame correctly? Do you feel like you knew, you had a pretty good idea what was going to be played, and it happened pretty much exactly as you expected?
I wouldn't say it happened exactly as I expected, but it was somewhat along the lines.
What did you expect?
I expected pretty much exactly what I played against my NCT matchup. I didn't expect to play any Excelgor, and I played 2 of those. I did play a couple vanilla like I expected. I played a few Darkrai like I expected, and I played a lot of Zeal, which was obviously my best matchup.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as far as my assessment's concerned, I played against pretty much what I expected, except for, 3 Klings, which kind of flew under my radar. But I played against a couple of Zekiels and a Darkrai Mirror, which I ended up playing Darkrai, Teraki, and Shaman EX. Yeah, my assessment was relatively spot on according to what I played against, except for, that the little issue of Kling, which just took me by surprise 3 rounds in a row. And that's pretty much all it takes. All you need to do is have 3 losses and you're out of the tournament, unless you have a bye. So that was that. But it's pretty interesting that we all expected, a certain field, and we were all pretty much wrong, except for John, obviously. I think that just goes to show you that preparation, means the world. You want to prepare against different types of players, like Kyle mentioned. Our little playtest group, which was, it wasn't even that little, and we played against, quite a few, good players. But our playtest group just got it wrong. And when a group gets it wrong, then that's it. Everybody in that group has to suffer. So that just proves a lot. And I think that's interesting, coming out of this Nationals and going into other larger tournaments, whether it be Worlds or next year. But, yeah, I found that really interesting. And what you guys ended up saying was actually spot on with what I thought was going to happen, which is we got it wrong. John got it relatively right. And our group just screwed it up. So that was that. And Drew, I think we might have actually lost for good. We'll have to wait and see for that one. Again, I want to remind you all that this is our post-Nationals edition of the Top Cut, so we're gonna be going on break pretty soon, and then after that we're gonna come back and answer all of your guys' questions. Please ask us any questions that you would like for either ourselves or for John. And if you guys would like to focus on John, we won't blame you. He is the national champion, obviously, and he deserves all the recognition he's about to get. So, did you guys want to mention anything about the other end of our weekend, which is, as the Top Cut ourselves? Obviously, we all have quite a bit we want to say, but if any of you guys would like to take the floor first, please be my guest.
I had a blast casting with Kyle. That was fun. Our top 16, top 8, and top 4 rounds that we got to record I thought was pretty well done. And I really enjoyed doing that, so that was cool stuff. Also, it was fun meeting all of you guys, signing all that stuff. It was really humbling. And, yeah.
Okay. What about you, Kyle?
Anyone who's watched the show or paid attention to us knows that we were really trying to stream and record from Nationals as much as we could. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. We just didn't get permission to do it. We tried for 2 months. Didn't get any response or anything like that. So, overall, it was actually a really disappointing weekend in terms of coverage. We did get to do the top 16. Thankfully, we got to do one of John's games in top 8, which was like the biggest steamroll I've ever seen. His opponent took 1 prize in 2 games. It was just like, man, that was the moment where I remember Pram said, we could see Clink Clang win Nationals, and I was like, you know what, I think he's right. Like, that was so convincing. Like, I couldn't see John losing it the rest of the way. So that was really cool, even though it wasn't exciting at all. It was just like, wow, I think this guy's going to win. But the other 2 matches were really exciting. I'm glad we at least got to record some stuff. Of course, we didn't get to do the finals, which was probably the most disappointing thing. I would have loved to capture John's big moment on camera, but unfortunately, they wouldn't let us do that. So hopefully we'll be able to resolve some of this stuff by Worlds and provide more coverage from there. But overall, I have to say I was really disappointed. We prepared a lot for the event in terms of coverage, and we just weren't allowed to do it. I had fun doing commentary with Pram. We got there bright and early on Sunday at 7 a.m. to set up, and I'm really glad we got to do that. But yeah, hopefully things can improve. We're going to try to talk to the guys from Pokemon Company, and we'll go from there, and we'll keep trying.
Yeah. I just want to add that, yeah, like you said, it was very disappointing to not be able to do the coverage that we wanted to do. We did get quite a few interviews, which was really nice. I did some deck techs with that, which I thought were really fun to do, and I watched a couple of them because they were so interesting to me, just to be able to get their thought process on the decks, and I definitely recommend you guys watch those because I think that that's what really shined as far as non-coverage things were concerned. Just being able to see people describe their decks and give you a kind of a little insight into how they build decks and what they're really thinking. So aside from that, like even though that was really nice, I did wish that we could do commentary. Like I mentioned earlier, I dropped from the tournament at my third loss, not because I knew that I wasn't going to make top cut, but because I really did want to do commentary. And we did go in there prepared, like Kyle said. We were prepared as early as day 1, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So then day 2 came along, and we were told we were going to be able to do the coverage, so we planned accordingly, and unfortunately it didn't happen. It didn't end up working out. I don't really necessarily know why, but ultimately it didn't, so that was that. And at least we did get 3 matches in. I do wish we would have been able to get the finals in. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. I'm very glad that the public's actually making note of this and kind of like speaking out on behalf of not only the top cut but on behalf of everybody else, because I think that it's really important that we voice our opinion on this, because if the top cut or anybody actually is able to get these matches recorded and kind of immortalized, not only will it be nice for somebody like John who won the tournament to be able to watch and say, hey look, here's the proof that I actually won this giant tournament, but it'll be nice for anybody that was at the tournament to be able to reminisce and be like, whoa, that was the final moment of this match. That was the final moment of the finals. And those things, they happen in other card games, yes. They happen in, sports and everything else, yes. But we had the ability to have it happen for our little game that's grown so much in the last few years. And as far as coverage is concerned, it's grown so much in this last year. So if we would be able to, move forward with this and say, you know what, unfortunately, this little mistake happened, but let's not let it happen again. If people can voice their opinions on this, we can actually make a difference, and we can do a lot. Not necessarily the top cut once again, but as a group, we can do a lot, for the game moving forward. So I'm very happy for the response that we've gotten, and I encourage you guys to keep, responding this way because it's very important. John.
Sorry, I just want to throw in. I can't emphasize enough how genuinely disappointed I was that I couldn't even really see what was going on in the finals. I mean, they had no sort of setup at all for like cameras, monitors, nothing. You just kind of had to watch from a distance. And I think it's really sad because that was one of the greatest moments in the history of the game, I think. I mean, just John top decked the Kling Klang, and what other ending could you ask for? He uses Gear Grind to win Nationals. He literally uses Kling Klang to win the whole tournament, and then got up and pumped his fist, and he went to the crowd. It was just an awesome moment, and I'm really sad that we couldn't at least capture that. I hope somebody at least got it on camera so he can at least relive it.
I posted on my Facebook. I found a couple of videos of it.
Yeah, I saw a couple of them, and they were like, "Oh, this is so cool." But you don't see the winning moments. You see the after moments. It's like, yeah, but yeah, those were some cool videos, definitely.
John, I wanted to ask you something before. Well, not before, but since you're actually here and you're what I assume to be a regular viewer of the Top Cut, what was your stance? Or not stance, but what was your feelings? Coming out of nationals as far as what the Top Cut did and what we could have done differently or anything related to the actual group of us.
I really don't feel like you guys could have done any more than what you did. It all came down to getting permission for it. You guys can't really break the rules, and and record anyway. Otherwise, you guys be, probably banned or something. So, and we won't want that happening.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, I guess. That's one way of looking at it. Yeah, I mean, it's still cool, and I do wish that we had been able to get your match, but ultimately, I'm sure that any type of memory that you have of this is going to be more than enough for you, and I'm sure that you don't need a video camera to be able to relive, the final moments of your match. So it's cool that you actually got to do all of this, and hopefully we can do more moving forward. But unless anybody wants to add anything on, I do want to take a break and then go straight into the viewer questions. So, are you guys good to go? I'll take that as a yes. All right, we'll be back in about 3 minutes, guys.